And welcome everyone to Game 2 here between Unica and DogSlinger and the MSL Code A SemiFinals. Almost said Code B there for a moment, and clearly these players, looking at their APM, these are not Code B. If they are, they're masquerading themselves very well. And they are simply enjoying themselves here. So they are meeting up this time on Derelict Watcher. This is another one with the Diablo 3 tile set and the coolest looking Vespin geysers you've probably ever seen. And down here in the bottom left hand corner is of course the pink Zerg player Unica with his opponent the blue Protoss up here in the top right hand corner. So DogSlinger of course feeling that he's been very evenly matched with each one of his opponents, having only casted the semifinals so far. Cannot confirm or deny that. I will say though, the DogSlinger's been pretty good, doing pretty well for himself here. The first game went pretty well. DogSlinger was able to take some good engagements with his higher tech army, even though he's at a food disadvantage to the much cheaper in cost, but food very expensive, maxed out Zerg player with the roaches. So over time he was able to overcome with those higher tech units and was able to force his way into the game and eventually deny all the expansions and simply take the game, slowly crawling his way through. So I'll be interested to see how this game here goes. Interesting wall off. I will say that this is a very non-standard wall. The reason I say that is because if you're going to bother doing a wall, you should have a small entrance, and the way to do that is put a pylon here, and then you do gate, cyber, and then there's a space that only one zealot needs to fill, and all your units can still get in and out. So if you see an attack coming, you quickly warp a zealot in the correct place. They cannot run their way in, and that can save you quite a bit of hassle. As it is here, this would take, I think, a full building or like 4 or 5 zealots to completely close off that gap. So we're seeing pretty standard play. Looks like we went hatch, pool, gas. Although the gas was late enough, it's not going to be able to have enough gas to get speed immediately. So perhaps that's something to work on a little bit, is to get that build timed out a little bit, maybe a little bit more crisply. Because as you see here, you're not able to have that 100 gas right now, which indicates that the gas geyser should go down a little bit earlier if that is your goal. However, if that is not your goal, then simply feel free to disregard all of my so-called advice. That was said with air quotes. For those of you that can't detect internet sarcasm, or perhaps you can't detect vocal sarcasm because we spend too much time on the internets with emoticons. So, important life lesson. That's the sarcasm voice. So, another pylon, another gate. So 2 gates, we're up to 3 gates. I feel like if this was going to be... So, we have 3 gates. We're going to see 4 gates. So this is going to be a 4 gate. Generally, if you're going to do a 4 gate, you put this gas geyser down at 21 or something like that. I can't remember the exact timings, but I know it's much earlier than 27. What this will mean is that DogSlinger will actually be quite a bit more gas starved, and so he won't have as much kind of techie units, some of the more scary ones in terms of engagements like sentries. Sentries are not a scary unit per se. They tickle people, or they actually feel like they glide along and accumulate static electricity, and then that's exactly what they shoot their opponents with. And so that's why it does very little damage, because we've all been shocked by static electricity, and I feel like we have at least as many hit points as a Zergling. So that's why, however, sentries have this ability to zone units out and prevent reinforcements from joining this lower base, the natural. So that's really what makes sentries really scary. Although a DogSlinger electing not to use any of his gas on that and going for the more damaging units, like the Zealots and Stalkers. Also a Forge going down. So good timing in terms of getting Warp Gate done. 4 gates usually come right around 6:30. Sometimes as fast as 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Interesting decision to pull back the spine crawler, and I do believe that actually Unica is in quite a bit of trouble. In terms of units, he has only 3 larvae. He has only drones and no ability to produce anything that would be able to take out this number of stalkers, and he's simply forced to evacuate. And it looks like DogSlinger is going to chase him away. No, it looks like he's going to spend some time in his base and then pay some attention here in a little bit. There he goes. Now he is going to focus down this hatchery. And it looks like in the meantime, Unica is actually just going to throw down a horde of spine crawlers. So Unica does have some speedlings out here, but not near enough to take this. He's wisely not wasting them. I was going to say do a run-by. Given, look, that's 3 zealots, and they're not even anywhere close to finishing that as a wall. If there was a time to go and attack, it was while those broodlings were active. The zerglings could have done some, but simply not enough of them to do that, and wisely not choosing to commit. This reinforcement area would make it quite difficult for DogSlinger to continue to advance. Good idea there. Although we previously saw... Oh, nope, those zealots are going to be out of the way, so these zerglings are going to be able to get right in there. However, I don't know if they'll be able to get too much done. As there is a photon cannon or 2 because of that forge. So, untraditional, but it worked. I feel like wasting time on the larva is actually not a good idea. That gave all these spine crawlers a chance to complete. And those cannons and that forge actually means that, there's a lot less units here than there could be. His dealing with a little bit of this attack. He had probably, if I was DogSlinger, I'd feel that these photon cannons were probably a good idea because they clearly saved you from this attack. However, I actually might contend that if your wall was a little bit better constructed, and if you had a single cannon, that would actually be a little bit more efficient use of your resources. So good engagement there. Unica definitely hesitant to engage here, wanting to engage only where there are spine crawlers, not wanting to waste those 3 zerglings that are left. Pulling that spine crawler back, good idea, putting him farther behind. And it looks like DogSlinger is not going to have quite enough to force his way in here with that number of spine crawlers. Roachhorn is on the way, so he will be able to produce more units. He's got a decent bank, but because zerglings are so cheap and the larva expensive, that's why he's got this bank. He doesn't have the ability to really build anything else. He's going to start creeping his way forward. This queen might go down. In fact, I think it will. He does not have anything to transfuse it with. He's now even less larva. There was another queen building, but this is going to actually be a very difficult time for Unica to defend. The only thing saving here, in fact, is all of these spine crawlers, which is clearly quite a few. Another thing I just want to point out here is the number of drones that were forced to be converted into spine crawlers. Keep in mind that Unica actually evacuated very quickly. I don't think he lost any drones there. Oh yeah, 3 drones in that whole attack. Another looks like a speedling attempted to counterattack, but these cannons should be finishing up soon, perhaps before the speedlings can get back. Not a big deal. But yeah, so all of these are effectively drone kills, if you want to think of them like that. They were forced to be made, just like you'd force out units, and because there were no other... it looks like those zerglings will get into the main. Once again, that small wall, or that small... I guess it's a small wall with a large gap instead of a small wall with a big wall with a small gap. The zerglings here are not going to be able to get too much done. They do successfully pull out the soft contain, and I feel like Unica could spend this time getting his hatchery started. I feel like this is a blunder not putting that down earlier. There it goes now, but I feel like that army's been gone for almost a full minute, including travel time from here to here, and your base would almost be done, and that's pretty important in terms of creep spread. Also, this creep tumor could be much farther forward. And by the time the army gets back, P.S. trying to burrow when your neighbor's burrowing can apparently be very irritating. So, good defense back here from DogSlinger. Good attempt and good job at getting the opponent's army to move back by Unica. And I don't think the DogSlinger has the ability to defend this, or to take this down. These roaches here really should be falling back and engaging much closer to all of these spine crawlers. Time warp doesn't work on buildings. So notice how they're not moving any slower because they're buildings and they already couldn't move. Good idea though, wanting to make sure that any units that came through this direction were in fact having a very sad day. So, and this here, I would call this a ninja expansion because it was sneaked, but it's actually in the correct place for third base anyway. And this could be a big deal if DogSlinger does not, in fact, scout that, which, in fact, he is not. And it looks like Unica is going to be able to determine that there's probably a proxy pylon there. It does, in fact, see it. This base should be taken out sometime soon. I apologize. I've actually had a couple of issues tonight while casting. This is not the first game that I've casted, and some of the other ones I've actually had to recast because during the middle, computers crashed, problems happened, anyway, taking a lot longer to get through the games. I apologize. The games will still go up onto YouTube. It just will be a little bit delayed, and I had previously said I was going to do quarterfinals through semifinals, but because life happens and I started my new official job and career today, I'm just not going to be able to get through all of them in the time that I would have liked. And so I want to get at least the semifinals to you all here in some sort of timely manner without everyone making fun of me, because remember, the internet is a scary place where not as people can say things to you that you can choose to either be hurt by or just laugh. We, of course, do have the High Templar showing up, and there is Storm coming on the way. So these are not High Templar made with intent to actually make Archons. These are, in fact, ones meant to storm. It's a very interesting unit. You have no attack and basically nothing else you can do other than either become a giant scary unit with one other guy, or shoot lightning out of your brain. So, interesting idea for a unit. I just wonder what's happening in Blizzard when they're like, let's make them a unit that shoots lightning out of their faces. Way more cannons than is needed back here. Knowing that he can lose to a counterattack, it is a good idea to put down cannons, but this is just way too many. Another comment I was making before was about these cannons and that forge. There was 4 cannons here, 2 in the main and a forge, and those could have been 4 cannons, 6 cannons, 900 minerals. That could have been 9 more zealots. That could have, I think, actually broken Unica a little bit earlier. But perhaps DogSlinger feeling a little bit more hesitant and instead wants to commit to a longer-term game. And the next thing I want to point out is that Unica's caught up a lot in food, and that is because of a number of reasons. Of course, he has 3 bases, and his opponent does not know about it. The worker count is actually still in favor of DogSlinger, but there are 3 bases, and more importantly, those are 3 hatcheries, and he has now enough larvae to actually spend things. Notice how broke he is now. Also, Zerg units are cheap on food, but more importantly, his opponent has actually done something that's allowed him to catch up. Usually when you watch Protoss players play, they choose one tech path at a time and stick with it. Here we do have the Templar Archives, the Robo Facility that was going down at the same time, and the Dark Shrine. The only thing that he does not researched or not started in terms of tech path is the Stargate. And what that's done is that's a lot of money that's just been tied up into buildings. For instance, there's no Robo units here. They're just now starting to produce Robo units. And what that means, I mean, this is a number of units that could have been used. This army could just be a lot larger with gateway units. Had all those tech paths not been explored at the exact same time. However, we are not in the GSL Code S, we are in the MLS Code A, and this is totally an acceptable way to play this tournament. This could be potentially a little bit scary. There could be a little bit of a concave here from the Zerg player, and concaves are super important. Knowing that creep tumor got killed the first time all the way down, he instead pulls a little bit back. He's going to take out this free unit here. That's not going to supply block him though. He has successfully ninja expanded with some cannons. Noticed that a little bit earlier, neglected to point it out. And there is now a traditionally placed 4th base in the 3rd location, but it does appear that Unica is in fact going to scout that out. Doing a great job with the scouting information. It's very, very useful. Looks like there will be some zealots warped in to be able to take care of this, and actually forcing the entire army to retreat once again. Checking out the units tab, we do only have 1 immortal on the field. Where are these robotics facilities have not been utilized to their full extent, and I feel like that's kind of the reason that DogSlinger's army is actually not, in fact, much larger. Is that all those tech paths were explored at the same time? There is a huge investment in cannons. Yeah, that's how many here? Oh my goodness. So we have 6 there, and 7 down here. That's a huge thing. However, there is a big engagement happening here, and these High Templar here at the back are going to get sniped. Not before they throw down some gigantic storms. Still some more energy right on top of those Hydras. Hydras are very fragile and do not last under storms. Roaches do much better. And it looks like, although that looked very scary and a lot more High Templar were lost than perhaps they should have been, that did actually cause quite a bit of damage. Those storms were able to push those opponents back. Those opponents meaning, of course, the multitude of Hydralisks and Overlords that were threatening to watch what they were doing. So good storms. I feel like a poor setup of the army, maybe perhaps poor unit control before the engagement, but good unit control and lots of probes or drones are going to go down here, and there's actually nothing at all that Unica can do to prevent this. And now the food gap continues to widen. So continuing to spread the creep. Good idea here. This drone does not know that there's a base here. It's kind of an interesting spot to leave a drone. It's kind of hiding, trying to inspect whatever this presumably, no, I'm pretty sure that's a Terran artifact on a Protoss flavored map. I don't know if you guys saw that. There was a stalker. Oh, we're rotating through all of the units. For those of you who don't know, that was a sentry. That is a zealot and not a Yeti. Interesting things. I love to see the different things and attention to detail that has been put on the different areas of the map. But it looks like, more importantly, the Spinecrawler wall has made its way down the ramp with that creep spread. Creep spread is actually very, very important for Zerg, and this has been one of the only times that the Protoss army is not here. So I also want to check out some upgrades. Because of the army, good storms again by Unica. It hits a lot of his own units. Sometimes you actually want to put the storm a little bit on the other side of the army, so then they're forced to walk all the way through it and your units don't, or they are forced to come forward where you're going to have the better engagement anyway because they're forced into your zealots. So just a little tidbit of advice. Looks like Unica's still trying to expand, spending all that money, being very broke this whole time. Going to take out the proxy pylon. But really, DogSlinger's been very on top of it, watching the map, going to check again, sees that base going down, and is just going to deny him again. And ever since this base has been discovered, I don't feel like Unica has had an advantage or even has been able to really come back. Looks like DogSlinger a little bit hesitant to engage, and now gets some excellent storms on those Hydras. And because of that, it pushes them back. But when they're engaging there with those spine crawlers, they're very hard to attack into. Remember, Hydras do huge DPS, but are very, very fragile. They have no armor inherently, and they only have 80 life, and they're a little bit expensive. So if you can engage them by themselves, that will be the best way to go. Surprised how small the army is from DogSlinger at this point in time, and just in terms of number of tech units. I'm surprised we don't have the robotics bay. Do we have Robo Bay? No Robo Bay, so still just robotics facility building units like the Immortal. The Immortal is an excellent unit, not as good against Hydras as they are against Roaches, because Roaches have more hit points but are heavy armor and so take triple damage from Immortals just about. And now this is really what I was talking about. The Hydras here with nothing to support them fall very quickly to almost anything. They don't have anything there to tank for them while they DPS things down. And now with these reinforcing Immortals and High Templar, and especially with that loss of Hydras, I actually don't know if Unica is going to be able to hold this next push. We're going to see what in the world he is going to be able to do. He is continuing to produce Hydras, noticing that they have in fact been working for him. But all of these units are going to be a little bit scary coming in. I'm surprised he's not pushing in. I feel like DogSlinger overall has been very hesitant to attack. He's had some clear advantages. I think he could have ended the game here had he not built 8 cannons in his base and a forge continuing to warp in. Or if he'd simply run into the main and left the natural there. I feel like he could have won just then had he attacked before the rest of these Hydras came out. So one thing, though, that's actually something that I personally struggle with very much, is sometimes you feel like the opponent has much more than they do because all you see is the very edge. When you are DogSlinger, you see that there's just a whole bunch of spine crawlers, and you still see units walking out. You just don't realize that the main has been completely mined out. There's not much here in the natural, and there's no other bases. These have both been established, but they're extremely vulnerable. Creep is not connecting them, and even if there were, there's not enough units here. Looking at the army size difference, it's 1,700 to almost 7,000. Good cancel there. Always like to see people cancel things. These Vipers here, I'm a little bit conflicted about them. Vipers are extremely good units. They can do things like throw down blinding clouds, but when there's no Colossi here, look at that now. Excellent news. We have Immortals now. We have 9 Immortals. Previously, those robotics facility units had not been present in near enough volumes, and now the tech value is there, and now we're going to have an engagement. The Hydras here are all clumped up, a whole bunch of storms going down on all of the Hydras. In fact, most of DogSlinger's own units, and it looks like Unica is going to tap out, and DogSlinger is going to take us to a very early 2-0 lead in the MSL Code A semifinals.